Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild landscape of Scotland. And today I've come to an incredible location located between Pitlochry and Kirkmichael here in the wild landscape of Perthshire, Scotland. And a few months ago I was at an incredible abandoned house up here, and at that time I noticed this sign, the walk to Brerachen Falls is up here. 800 metres, and I'm sure if I follow this track along the hill here I should get to these falls. I always wanted to come back and document it, so here we are today. But I'm going to kind of walk up the side of this field past this incredible little abandoned house and then make my way along the hill. So let's get into this incredible adventure, folks. I love exploring areas that I've never been to before. And once we get past this old house, it's like an area that I've never seen. And I just love this wild landscape. It is a little bit windy here out and about, but it just depends on like the lie of the land. It is incredibly sunny and just such a beautiful day for an adventure. And this field, there's actually sheep and stuff in it, so hopefully there shouldn't be as many ticks. And to the landowner and that, I always come with the greatest respect. We're out here doing no harm. We're just going on crazy adventures to document some history. This is incredible. I love seeing this place. It's been a few months since I discovered this building. This is the first time I've been back up here. And it's quite cool that the track kind of goes round past this. Anybody that didn't see this the last time I visited it, they get a second chance right here. It's just absolutely mad that there can be wee nuggets of history like this hidden in the wilderness. In this video I'm hoping to see some new abandoned wonders that we've never seen before on the channel. Look at the character of this, folks. Incredible scenes of abandoned history right here. And I just love the character of the decay. The more years that pass, things like this just degrade and decay more and more. With the wild Scottish weather. And you have to imagine this was a grand farmhouse at one time, standing proud on the hill here. Probably generations of families farmed this land here, whereas now it's probably taken back over from a bigger croft in the area. They obviously still use this land here for the sheep and the grazing. Whoa, there's so many flies and things. I'm going to keep it moving right here. I'm just thinking like what way I need to go around. I could really like do maybe in the far side of here, but I'm not sure how good the conditions are. Look at this, folks. The back portion of the house here is held up from acro props under that big beam, and it's crazy to see how much that's all dropped and fallen. Looks like the acro props are sinking into the ground. The wet terrain up here on the hill, it's just crazy. The amount of wild storms and strong winds that a place like that puts up with. If it gets abandoned for more than like 5 or 6 years, the dampness just sets in and everything rots. Then once the roof rots out, it just drops in. I'm just continuing now. I've managed to navigate around the back of that house. So we're now just going to head right along the hill. I can see there's like a current farm down here. But I'm just thinking the sign said 800 metres and I definitely can't see any waterfalls at this side. So I'm sure the waterfall's further this way. But it's cool just often having adventures like this. I've got a general idea where the waterfall is, so I'm just navigating, trying to find it. And I actually think I can see the track. Look at this, folks, right here there's a sheep stuck in the fence. I'm going to have to rescue this sheep. Here we go, folks. Whoa, 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 calm down. Calm down. It's okay. It's okay, keep calm. It's okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. okay. Can you get out? Yes. I'm shaking after that, folks. Its nose and mouth was so close to getting ripped off from the force of the wire on its head. But it got to that stage, it knew I was trying to help it and it just bared with it. Shout out to the farmer as well, like I've literally sorted that out without the sheep getting harmed. That's one of those things, if I hadn't intervened there, it would have damaged itself, because it was moving ferociously when it first came into my view. It was just going absolutely mental. Wild, real nature out here, folks. See that, folks? I was forcing the wire so hard on that fence, I've got a dent in the back of my finger. I don't know if you can see that. I'm actually wounded from the rescue operation there. It's mad, like, seeing stuff like that. I'm proper shook. Up here on the hill, so that can be a situation where the sheep would perish, but a lot of the time the shepherd would have come across that maybe in a couple of hours, but the stress on the sheep is unreal when it's in a situation and it's stuck. Just look at these wild lands that we find ourselves in the middle of once again, folks. It just blows my mind often when I look around. I've said it before, different glens and often places nearby each other in Scotland, they just look so different, and each glen's got a different character. And this road between Michael and Pitlochry is just stunning. It's just such wild, rugged terrain here. Whoa, look at this, there's like a dead worm in the puddle right there, check it out. Check this out, I've been walking for quite a bit now and the tracks kind of just turned into this field. There was green arrows on the first two gates straight ahead and I thought that must be the main footpath. But now it's just kind of this green field, so I'm just staying the kind of general direction I need to go. But it looks like we're coming closer to this other end of the Glen here, which is quite cool to see. It's all just like uncharted territory on this channel and it's so cool to see. There's like old wall lines, dry stone dikes just heading up the hill there. And I'm just thinking there's maybe like some old building or some old structure around here. So just think about the hundreds of years ago that all these walls were probably first put in place by the first farmers that built these crofts on the land. And I believe this could have been an individual croft on its own at this area. It looks like there's enough stone construction here that it's likely been a croft house or something like that. It actually looks like there's some mad like walls. There's so many walls in this area. It was probably an independent croft, but nowadays it's still used by the current like shepherd or farmer in this area, because he's got a little hut and stuff there, and that'll be for like when they're doing the lambs and the lambing. I believe this could have actually been the wee croft house here at the corner. Yeah, this is cool, folks, an abandoned croft house. I've still not even seen the waterfall yet, but I can hear water flowing quite ferociously over this area. So I'm not sure if this is the waterfall here. Check this out, this is mad. Another little abandoned farmhouse, folks. Who would have even known it? A lot of the houses I go to, they're in different levels of decay. And this is what often happened with most of them. You have to imagine they're like 500 years old or whatever. And these farm crofts were taken over from like bigger farms in the area. And the land was obviously just taken on, and then the wee houses became obsolete and unneeded. These houses were around here like pre-electricity, and they wouldn't have even had like indoor toilets and things, so you get an idea of the the old timeline we're dealing with in a place like this. You just imagine the wee family sitting out here making their living on the hill with their sheep and their animals. This was probably quite a big croft in the day. I can see there's some sort of old furnace device over there which is quite cool. So I'll go and take a look at that. There's an old stone boundary line coming round here as well. But look at this interesting detail within the architecture of this house. This is the old lintel stone above the fireplace. And here's the old chimney. Look at that, folks. Imagine the smoke coming out of that chimney as they were boiling their pot of tatties at night after a hard day's work out on the farm. Maybe some of these fields would have had wheat or barley in them back at that time as well. Back at the time when they just harvested everything by hand. Crazy different way of doing back then. That must have been the old front door at that side there. But there's really not much more like evidence of the house. Apart from that, it would have obviously had the wee windows. Sometimes in these early houses it was actually like shutters, wooden shutters they would have had before the days of glass. Anyway, let's keep this adventure moving, folks. It's an action-packed adventure out here today. And I just love seeing the heritage of the farming, what's left from a bygone era. And I love how in the different glens the dry stone dike construction is totally different. It's sort of like a rougher stone, like, I don't know what the word would be. The person who's done it makes it look a lot rougher here. I've seen it a lot tidier before. But even though it looks rough, it still stood the test of time. So credit to it. It's obviously structurally sound. I love stuff like this, folks. It's uncharted history, and it's an old abandoned farm with a waterfall literally coming down through it. That must have been where they got their fresh water originally for the house and for all their farming needs. They maybe even had some sort of mill wheel powered from the water. Look at this. This tree has got a massive hole right inside it. Check this out. Wow, that tree is fully hollow. It's a bit scary going near it in case a beast comes out. And look at this. Whoa, there's some creatures flying about me as well around here. But yeah, look, there's some mad like big stone outlines here. You can see it, there's been stuff going on in this area. Yeah, this is an absolute madness, folks, right here. I think there's a little bridge there, but I'm wanting to look at this little furnace device, document the history, which is almost lost to nature and time, folks. A lot of these things are obsolete in the modern farm, so they're not needed, and every year they just decay and degrade more and more. Check it out, obviously, because the farmer still uses this for his sheep and stuff. I'm coming with the greatest of respects. I'm not going poking about, but I'm just wanting to look at this. Check it out, an old burner or some sort of device like a furnace. The sun's at a poor angle from this side, like, but you see the old, I think it's like hinges or something there. So I'm not sure what they were actually boiling, but maybe even the wool back in the day. I'm sure when we were on the Isle of Islay, we saw a device like this when we were on an adventure on the moor. Actually, I do remember that, and this is the first time I've seen one of these here since that time. 2 years ago on the Isle of Islay, I remember it. We theorised it was when they were boiling the wool back in the olden days. And see, when I look down the far side, I can see the dry stone dike, and when it gets to the house wall, there's a clear difference in the construction. There's actually some interesting stones in what must have been like another building there. 2 stones sitting upright. Look at that, folks. In the corner of the garden there, there's 2 stones sticking up. And there's just old remains of like farm history. There's been other little buildings here, which is quite interesting. There's just been buildings all over this site. I'm just thinking the best path out of here might just be literally right across the front of here through this gate and then along the hill. Not unless that looks like a separate little field. I was just thinking, folks, this must be the Falls of Bruachan. I'm sure that's what the sign said. There's been so much drama in this adventure already. I was just thinking, I couldn't even remember the exact name of the waterfall. Yeah, look at this, there's been some mad like little old wall and stuff here. Check out that, the old dry stone wall. Places like this are just absolutely mad, folks. Look at the way that waterfall comes down over the stone. What an incredible waterfall. I'm not even sure if this is the waterfall, but it is roughly 800 metres, so I'm guessing it is. It is quite grand looking nowadays. I can see a pipe there in the burn, and that must have been for a water supply, maybe for some of the feeding troughs for the sheep. But I can see now it must have washed downstream when the river was high. Yeah, this is so interesting, the way the water flows over this waterfall. It's special to see. Let's have a closer look, folks. I've got the wellies on, so I should be able to go into the burn here. And we've got this little bridge. It looks like there's been an even older bridge there at ancient times, and then it's been replaced. Crazy scenes, folks. Right now we're within the waterfall. Look at the way it drops down. Mad. It's a crazy wilderness mixed with abandoned history just between it, and that's what I absolutely love. It looks super deep here in this pool. I would say it's more than a metre deep in this area in front of me, which is crazy to see. Anyway, I'm going to head further along and see what other ancient wonders is on this hill. I'm just wanting to basically look around the corner of this incredible landscape here and see if there's anything that we've missed, anything that we've never seen before. Often when I see a place like this, I just imagine it when it was in its prime. The farmer out here every day of the week, probably earning his living. The sheep would have been able to roam all over this wild land, just as they do to this day. And then normally when they want them back, they would go out with the sheepdog and like round them all up and bring them home. Bring them to areas like this to sort them out and grade them or whatever they do. Probably some of them would get sent off to the slaughter, others would be kept. And it's just a crazy process that's been going on since probably the beginning of agriculture on these lands. And a lot of this landscape was carved in the days of the glaciation period, and you end up with massive stones like this. Look at that, the way it's eroded and worn. So I've come this route a wee bit further up the hill here, just to avoid the thick area of sheep there. If I tried to walk across the middle of that, I would just be upsetting a large number of them. Whereas if I come over this way, again, I'm just up here solo on the hill right here. Wow, I can see another abandoned wall line over here. It's interesting because there's been some like land works or something at a certain time, maybe old wall lines I can see on this whole area. It's almost like a square here in front of me, and then that leads right on along, and there's been some other like outlines here, maybe ancient fields related to this croft that I just looked at. So I just looked up and saw a massive bunch of animals like silhouetting in front of the sky, and I thought, is it a whole group of sheep? But I've just realised that it's actually a massive herd of deer that's just coming down off the hilltop. Crazy, folks. There must be like 12 or 15 deer there in that group. So check this out here once again, folks. Here's an ancient, it's pretty windy at this point in the walk, but you can see this ancient wall line leading down and around. This whole area has been landscaped and changed for the agriculture, probably drained from being a pure bog, because there is still boggy areas. And see, back in the early days, they really knew how to manage the land to make the most of what they had, the few acres. Even stony ground was managed so it was farmable. And it's just insane to see the remnants of that. It's almost like a skeleton or a scar of the history. And it's just in its final years of being visible to the human eye. Check this out, folks, we've made it to this incredible abandoned piece of history here on the hill. And it's just mad to see this. Like, I'm always blown away at each place I go. This must have maybe been like some sort of sheep pen or other building related to that croft that we just saw. Not unless this is some other like ancient croft, potentially a separate one. I just love the way these old walls are put together. Look at these stones. There's tiny little ones and big ones, all different shapes and sizes. They've literally been in there since way back in the day, like, and it's just crazy to think like how many hundreds of years that actually is. Look at that fungus growing there in the grass. Just check it out. There's loads of sheep here. They're just chilled though, because I'm just staying away from them, letting them go their own way, and I'm just documenting the history in between. I can actually see though, this must have been landscaped at an early time as well, along with that croft, because it's all level, and the stones on the boundary line. Look at this massive stone. It's like they've almost chosen that for the corner piece of their construction. And I'm not sure if that's been original for letting like water out. If it has been like a grazing area or a sheep sorting area, it's just some ancient like walled compound from like back in the day. Nowadays obviously it's a home to the sheep, but at one time the farmer had to probably come up here all times a year to like care for his animals. Yeah, this is mad. This has been a proper little croft here, folks. Look at the old opening there in the wall. The cool thing is, look at all these wee buildings here. Some of these ones were likely to have had roofs on them and they were proper little buildings. Wow, this is crazy. Fresh, abandoned places never seen before on the channel, folks. A lot of these places I visit, they're never seen before on YouTube. It's like the first documentation of this abandoned history out on the hill. The locations I end up in the middle of are just wild. Every week it's like a different glen and a different hill. Each one is grand and is beautiful. And at this time of year the hills have got a purple tint with the heather growing. It just looks incredible. That's the only word to describe it, folks. It's magical to see. And often when you look around it just blows your mind. Look at the size of this door. It's one of these tiny little doors, quite narrow. But I can see there's no been a door in this bit. So this must have been the only access into this room. And then look, it's only been a door in from the back in that other room. So these are some old sheds. The walls are built with proper massive stones. Sometimes like lintel stones and things from places like this would have been taken away. Maybe that last croft that we looked at a minute ago could be the newer one that replaced this croft. That can often be the case. Or sometimes places like this were on the go at the same time. Yeah, there's been a doorway here as well. I just love to see that and imagine when the animals or whatever was in there. Maybe over the winter they came down here off the hill to shelter. Back at that time they probably had cows and other animals grazing out here as well. Oh, it looks like there maybe has actually. Here we go. The shadow's at a poor angle when I'm standing here with the sunlight, but it looks like there's been a door here, because that looks like a wall edge. All this is like falling in. Yeah, so this must have been like the proper little corridor in the middle, and you can imagine him coming along with a wooden barrow, maybe with some hay and stuff that he'd cut out in these little fields surrounding, feeding the cows. The animals that would be coming to the entrance maybe to get their food, they would know it was that time of day. They would hear the old wooden door opening up, the hinges creaking. It's just mad to think about that, the noise of the door flattering on the windy nights, clattering. It's like this has been a wide opening originally at this end of the like passageway, and then it's been changed and developed and they've put in a smaller like man door. They were maybe sick of the hill wind coming flying in there and whirling round, because I bet it's ice cold in the wintry months. I think in the future I'll come back maybe on another walk and head even further around into this wilderness. But I can see there's like a massive stone over there. It's maybe too far away to come out on the camera. on the other side of the river there's a huge stone which is like the size of like 10 double-decker buses, and I'm thinking the only way it could have gotten to there is if it had been deposited from the ice in the glaciation period, because a lot of these other stones would have rolled down the hill, but that one over there is just like out of place, just plunked down there. Stuff like that is cool. Yeah, look at this, it's just insane to see these old buildings and this old history from such an ancient time. You can hardly even imagine how life was back then and how the culture of the world even was. They had different things that bothered them each day, or different things they cared about, and a lot of the time they were just self-sufficient, like sustaining their own survival out here on the hill. Maybe they had moved the little croft from here further down because they had a decent water source with that falls of Bruachen, which is just insane, that little waterfall. If I'm getting the name wrong at this point, I do apologise folks, but I'll read the sign when I get back down to the roadside and we'll see its correct name. Yeah, the way this is built, it's just so interesting. It's like another little building that we had never seen, another landscape that I had never walked. And look at the thickness of these old walls, they're like 2.5 foot thick. That's probably another reason they stand for so long out here on the hill. It's like the original shape of it has always curved and gone like that for some reason. It's like they had shaped it to go down to that big stone on the ground or whatever, but it's definitely not built in a straight line at all. Maybe the crofters themselves were the folk that actually built these, but the construction is just so cool. Let's take one last look folks, look how long it's been here, the lichens all over it. Look at that though, the wee slivers of stone, big and small. Crazy. I'm always just blown away by the strength of a construction like that. Sometimes on a stormy night it can fall over with the strong winds and stuff. And that's why I do enjoy like coming to record these sites before they are gone forever. You can see how many little individual crofts or how the world was back at a different time just from these places. You get a real essence of life back in the olden days, and it's just crazy. It must have been so wild and rugged around here, and you can imagine it maybe would have been more like tree landscape with like a lot more scrub and bushes. And most likely the crofters back then would have also gone out like hunting game animals like deer, any other type, maybe even wolves and stuff kicked about back at that time when these crofts were in like full use. That's maybe another reason they needed the door. Look at this, there's a pure orange fungus right there folks, look at that thing. Crazy. Some of the stuff you see on these adventures folks, it's literally like going to another planet. Sometimes there's so much on Earth, you see something new like every time you go out. So I noticed there was a dead sheep lying within that wall compound, and I've just noticed there's another dead sheep lying over here within these bushes folks. And I'm just thinking, if I hadn't rescued that sheep from the fence, like who knows what it would have come to. It could have sadly lost its life. Whoa, there's a wee beetle under the water swimming about folks. Typical, by the time I aim the camera down it's not there anymore. Some crazy little underwater beetle looking creature. But yeah, there's a sheep right there, I can see it, and I tell you, it's probably like, I don't know if it's been lambing potentially and something's happened to it, or sometimes the buzzards and stuff come down and can kill the sheep. The birds of prey around here can kill sheep and stuff like that, especially if they're lambs. But that sheep there's just, it didn't look good for sure. It looks like there's been something eating it. But that's the thing, sometimes if the shepherd doesn't manage to get around a certain area of his land within time, then the wild landscape around here itself can kill animals, or animals can die of natural things. Sometimes another thing, like stones can fall down. We saw evidence of that up Glen. A big boulder had literally fallen down and hit a sheep. There's been some amount of those horseflies just in areas today. You get big patches of them just flying about. They're like a black fly that goes about Scotland, most commonly in the summer and most commonly in grassy areas. wet areas, or quite a lot of areas really. If you're up hills and stuff like that, you would get them, and that's why they're kicking about here. This little burn or little stream here just meanders its way around, and I'm just kind of in line with the waterfall. It's an impressive waterfall, the way it comes down over the bedrock, and it's so special that it's got a piece of abandoned history at the foot of it. Whoa, there's grasshoppers as well flying about at my feet. So here's an interesting historical point here, folks. This has been the old bridge, and you can see the old course of the stream has come down here and round, but look, over the years it's changed its course, so they've had to put another bridge further over. That's quite interesting to see, little things like that. The old bridge is now just over a piece of dry land, and that's how all rivers and streams meander. Often over the years a stream or a burn will straighten out, other ones will actually start curving even more. Wow, look at that, the deep hole worn from the river. Just mad scenes once again out here, folks. I can see there's been dry stone dike construction like right the way down the side of the river here as well. So if the farm croft didn't have enough water coming down the waterfall, they've also had the option of this incredible little river at the bottom of the hill. So just imagine that, folks, when the wee farmhouse stood there proud on the hill with the smoke coming out of its chimney, overlooking this vast valley here. It's just mad to imagine that, how it was back when it was in its prime. And I think that must have been like the farmhouse garden in that section there. Often they would grow a lot of different types of vegetables and things in the garden itself of the house. Look at that, folks, the butterfly right there on the leaf. Crazy scenes, folks. Wildlife on this channel and nature, we're all about it. That thing's just chilling there. Real nature of Scotland, folks. It's quite happy with the sunshine. Look at the colouring on it, it's just special to see. So there's one current farming operation in the distance that I've walked today, and I can see that the boy's got a New Holland, so shout out to that farmer. That's one of our favourite tractors here on the channel, and I can see it's doing a good job from up here in the Glen. He's out just now driving about there, filling up like his feed boxes and stuff out in the field. And those little T5 New Hollands are perfect for like a shepherd or a hill farmer. See, with these sheep, folks, I'm needing to actually go to the gate over here, but I've taken a big wide turn around them, so they've not even actually had to move yet. And that's the way it should be in the countryside. You have to respect the farmer's livestock and animals when you're in this field. And often if you come into a sheep field at the wrong time of year, those sheep will go for you if they're protecting their lambs. If that sheep thought you were a threat, it would come and ram you to get you out of the way. But most of the time they're okay, they're quite like calm creatures. They're just happy eating this luscious grass here out on the hill. Just check it out, it's just mad to see, folks. The view looking back down this way is just as special as well. That's looking down the Glen towards like the Kirkmichael area. Look at this, folks, we've made it back round as far as the ancient farmhouse, the one which has still got its roof. It's the one which is in the best condition around here for sure. And that's where the sheep had its head stuck in the fence. That was a madness, folks, at the start of this video, like, and at the start of this adventure. It's just one of these things in the countryside. And these things do occur. That's why I think those fences would be better with like netting wire. Because I've seen sheep loads of times with their head stuck with their horns. Once they get a bit bigger like that one, it's just close to no even coming out. So you see the old wall line of the actual house garden. The main like farm yard had that great high wall around it. And it's another wall which has stood for hundreds of years. against the elements of the Glen. It's super cool to see. The age of that house is probably dating back to the same as that croft further up. It's just this one was updated and maintained in the later years. Originally these old houses would have most likely been a single little story butt and ben, and then they were developed and changed. This farm would have been one of the richest and the biggest probably in the area for a long time, for sure. Judging from how grand the house looks and the size of the farm, and these trees were most likely planted originally at the time of that farm. So look at this, folks. This could almost be like a picture postcard or a painting you would have on your house. But this old bridge here actually used to be the main road, and you have to imagine it coming round over this little thin bridge, single track lane. Horse and carts would have been coming over there, and then probably like in the 70s or even the 80s, like that was changed and developed. Maybe even at an earlier time, maybe the 60s, they had put the new bridge in and redirected the road. But it's cool to see the old stone construction there, and the way it's actually been reinforced with those cast iron pieces through it. It must have just been coming to the stage where it was no longer strong enough for the modern transport of like vehicles and things. Yeah, that's called the Brerachen Falls, folks, and you've seen it here on the channel. It was a mad walk into a crazy wilderness scene once again. And you can just imagine the old horses, or even the drovers, coming over this bridge with their sheep back at that ancient time. Yeah, this is so cool, folks. It's a wee bit more windy down here at the roadside, but you can see how cool an old bridge like this is. Look at that, with the reinforcement through it compared to the more modern structure there. And look, somebody's left their glasses on the thing here. Look at that. That's your glasses, folks, and you've lost them. This is where you've left them. There's down here on this ancient road. Maybe that was the shepherd that left his glasses there back in the 1700s when this road was in operation. So up on the far hill here at the opposite side, there's also been another walled section, maybe another little croft or sheep sorting area. And that's just something that you get all over the lands here in Scotland, each one at a different level of decay. Some of them still in use for the sorting out of sheep. Anyway, that's me back down at the main road. Some days this road here is literally like going to the Isle of Man. The way the motorbikes come fleeing round, like literally there's just constant motorbikes on this road in the summer, and I love to see it, but I love them when they're proper, like flat out. There we go, that's what I was saying, folks. Motorbikes in the Glen here, and like right on cue a group of motorbikes came round. Anyway, that's me just about back at my car, folks. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with the next adventure, wherever I end up going.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. Damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date, you're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight, don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase, so catch me if